Right here.
He's way better looking.
Sorry, Trish. Doesn't say mayor on there. It should say mayor alternate.
He's been moved over here now.
Somebody's already taken his dinner space. Mayor for a day.
Nice. And
Nice. Well, I came on the right day then.
We call to order the committee of the whole meeting, almost said the regular council. Committee of the whole meeting for February 9th, 2026.
Okay, the first item actually is the presentation from Teresa Wood from Columbia Valley Community Economic Development. I will share the screen.
Do we have to adopt the agenda?
Not necessarily, we don't have to. Yeah, this should actually be removed from the committee of the whole. Okay. Just bear with me while I share the screen, if I can. It worked earlier. There it is. So there's no clicker. I am your clicker.
I'll just say next.
Perfect.
How's that?
Yeah.
I only have mine so I can see the next slide, so yeah. I wear my glasses on, so I can't really even see it. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me. My name is Teresa Wood. I've been here before, presenting on the film industry update. And I'm here today to present on the economic development update, which includes a little bit of film. So I think I was either tired or cheeky last week when I said, what did we even do? I think that's because when I say I do economic development, people usually say, what do you do? And it takes 4 hours to explain. So what we're doing here is just an update on 2025. It's just the highlights. Lots of other stuff happened. But this is just kind of the key bigger things and some numbers to help understand what we did. Next. So our strategic plan has 4 areas of focus right now: workforce development and attraction, sector development, infrastructure development, and position improvement. Next. So I'll kind of go through each of those ones on their own, just some little highlights in each one. So workforce development and attraction, you can read what's all included in there. It's a lot of stuff, especially because it does include meet the needs. I'm going to highlight meet the needs of Columbia Valley entrepreneurs so that businesses can expand. I think that could be all of economic development, but it's included in workforce development and resident attraction. So next. The job fair is a big one that we do every year. It's an in-person job fair in Invermere at the Columbia Valley Center. So last year was 30 local organizations, and we call it the Job and Volunteer Fair. We do have organizations come recruit volunteers, and also we want to take away, if you're there looking for a job and your employer is also there, it's weird, but if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity and your employer's there, not so weird. So, and it works out really well because we do have a lot of nonprofits hire. And United Way is once again supporting all nonprofits to attend for free, and Kootenai Rockies Tourism pays for their tourism partners to attend for free. And we do a lunch and learn with it. So this year our lunch and learn is Leading Gen Z. It's a really good presentation. I've actually taken it from this person delivering it. It's fascinating. It's not just like, oh, kids don't want to work. It's really, really interesting. So that's that. 123 people came. And I was excited last year, even on the next slide. The high school careers class did a great job of helping kids get their resumes ready. So after school, like 3:34, we had a good swath of teenagers come down looking for summer jobs. So that was really cool. Another thing we did was the Youth Build a Business program. We did that in partnership with the Kootenai Alliance for Science Technology and the Youth Hub. So we had a bunch of kids. I realize I don't really stand out in that picture. I'm in there. So we ran them through, I think it was 2 months. This year it's like 4 or 5 months. It's quite a bit longer. And they sent curriculum. So there was people all over the Kootenays participating. Some people had entire high school classes do it. And they were like 17. We were the only group that had all 12-year-olds. And I don't recommend being in a room with all 12-year-olds every day after school. And it was cool. They made 2 social enterprises. One was a bubble tea business that supported the food bank, and the other was outfitters that took people on fishing trips and educated on invasive species. So they're pretty cool. They got to go through the whole thing of developing a business. They did a little Dragon's Den style pitch, and the winner of this whole thing all through the Kootenays could get $10,000 to help build a business. So we are recruiting for that right now. It starts on Wednesday. I don't know if we have anyone signed up. It's quite a longer commitment this time, so we'll see. That was cool. Next, She Means Business. We had 3 events for female entrepreneurs, 85 attendees. This event here was a speed dating event. I did not call it speed dating because no one would show up. So I think we said networking breakfast. And then I made the new speed networking, and it was really, really successful. This was in partnership with WeBC, previously the Women's Enterprise Network, and Community Futures in Scrutiny. And we do have an event coming up, same partnership, in March. I think it's going to be a great one. Next, Monday Morning Bites. I'm assuming everyone subscribes to this. This is my baby. So last year, we sent 62,000 emails out, 50% open rate, which if you like open rates, that's impressive. Not to brag, but that's really high. So I was on a workshop the other day, and they're like, oh, we got our open rate to 30%. Haha, I was like, okay. Nice try. And 2,700 click-throughs. So it's a newsletter. I don't know why the color went with that. That's fine. And it's just 4 things. So it's a learning opportunity, like professional development, funding, a resource. Sometimes that's that would be an example, would be a link to business planning through Community Futures or BDC things on just what's happening. They have kind of like top 10 things for marketing, just different things, and then a video. So it's just 4 easy things in the inbox every Monday. And the idea is you look at it quick. If something's relevant, you click. If it's not, delete. Just a quick easy, because there's so much information to pass along that is quite daunting. So that's a good way of getting things out. Next, sector development. You can just, the next one, you guys can read that. Give the slide. So this one, film was our big sector that we're working on. As you're well aware in Canal Flats, we saw some action in the fall, which was very cool. They were here for 2 weeks total, I think, in the valley. Then they went to, I want to say Kelowna to finish it, or the island somewhere not here to finish it with the city scene. So that was really, really exciting. Some big impacts, and a lot of houses were rented here. Businesses used, set up camp in the art center down here. It was great, and they felt really, really well received here. So thank you for that. Great reputation. Next. Oh, that picture was from, we did location scout training. So we trained about 10 location scouts, including myself, Sarah Kapoor, who's the film commissioner, Carla from the Nelson Civic Theater and the film commission, she's based in Nelson, Melanie from Golden, and then I think 4 or 5 people here who want to be in the film. So we train them as scouts, and right now they all have their deployments of places to go scout and upload to Real Scout. So when directors are searching for something, they'll be able to find it. So that's in full swing. And that training was with Adam Hogarth from Vancouver. I think we're looking at bringing him out again and doing more of a regional training so that all the Kootenays has the same resource. So we can really build up the whole region. And that was part of this funding. Kootenay Rockies Tourism holds the contract for the Kootenay Film Commission, and they work with the Nelson Civic Theater to deliver that service. So Kootenay Rockies Tourism applied through the Rural Economic Diversification Infrastructure Program and was awarded $191,000. So the whole project's about $240,000. And it's for 2 years of really solid film support. And it's really paying off. An example would be Sarah, the commissioner, is based in Creston. The Kootenay Film Commission region's massive. And she said, hey, Teresa, we need houses of this style. And I was in the Canal Flats Facebook group a couple weeks ago. I was like, I need this kind of house, like Scandinavian, what do you have? And without this, we wouldn't be able to do that. We would, but it'd be in regular day-to-day money, not extra. And then with this, I was like, hey, scouts, I need to go to this address, this address, this address, get those pictures and send them to Sarah. And it's done. So we're proving the case that we need more support for the Film Commission because the region's massive. And there's no way Sarah could drive here and scout houses. She has the whole, then she called people in New Denver and all over. It was like, hey, we need this house. The Kootenays is gonna win. So that's been good. So that's Location Scouts. FAM tour, so bringing directors, location managers, producers out so they know the area, a familiarization tour. We have used some of that funding to support some scouting for movie. It was last year they scouted, we were in Canal Flats as well, up the river and up Finley. And that one's looking very positive for next spring, 2027. So long game, but will pay off. I think that one's could be about 5 weeks of filming. Next. And there's a picture from that scout. Actually, that's the director of the movie, possibly for next year, and that's at the Summit of Panorama. Next. Now, this is a new write-up application that I put in. This was led by us, and we applied for $189,000. I can't remember what the total project cost was, probably around $230,000, $240,000. And this is to purchase data. And what it does is it would be a dashboard on our website that says who's visiting, when, from where, how much they're spending, how long they're staying here, all that good stuff that helps businesses make decisions. And then the part that, so you have to talk to someone before you apply, so you know. But the part that I think is really important is the workshops and the one-on-one coaching. Because you could give a business the data and they can say, that's neat. But then how do you actually implement it and make changes or use it and say, hey, we could adjust here. I didn't realize that people were here in November, or whatever it be. So that's that application we'll find out this spring. I'm hopeful, but I'm sure everyone is, and it's oversubscribed, so. It's not overly complicated, so that'd be great to get. Another one of my awesome newsletters is the monthly economic development update. And as said, it's still delivered monthly. And this is more economic development stuff. There's building numbers. I pick a fun fact with data every month. Sometimes one is tourism, one it's, hey, this is a cool number. Hey, we found estimated population growth in between census. Just cool data. I link to local government agendas. So I skim agendas and say, hey, what's economic development related? And put it in there. And they actually get a decent click through, which is, I'm stoked about it. I don't know why. Another thing we do is I include all the RFPs I can find. So I go through BC, scour the internet for different things that are government oriented that if every single one of the local RFPs was to a local business, I think that'd be amazing. So I want to make sure that they're receiving that information because sometimes they don't have the capacity to go check the BC all the time. So that's that. So you can see 19 click-throughs to Canal Flats. Is that agendas? Did I put that down? Yeah, I think that was agendas. And then Imagine Cooney. Sorry, Imagine Cooney is the website where you list businesses. And we had 368 click-throughs because they also list the business opportunities available in Columbia Valley. And that's both for people searching for businesses to buy, places to rent, etc. But also we know we have a big wave of people that is going to be exiting their businesses, whether through retirement, mostly that. They want to retire, either they sell it or just stop it. So the more businesses sold, the more turnover, the better there. So that's pretty good too. Next, infrastructure development. So there it is, Sports Trades Builders. Next, the Community Energy Project. This one we have Doug Smith. He's on the Economic Development Commission. He's been working extremely hard on a community energy plan for the Columbia Valley, and that's creating alternate energy. It doesn't have to be created here, but it has to be our project and put on the grid somehow to benefit people in Columbia Valley. So I think you buy in as a community and then it lowers your bills. Is my very...
They're looking at 4 projects.
Yeah. And yeah, it doesn't have to be one. It doesn't have to be like, hey, we're doing a big biomass thing. It'd be like, hey, there's a little run of river here. There's a water system here, solar, like it's all over the place. So Doug's working very, very hard on that, which is fantastic. And then with infrastructure as well, there's no slide about it. But we've been working with builders, supporting collective carpentry. They had a passive home building symposium, which was super cool to attend. And it was in Invermere, and they ship all over the place. There's a plant tour and a tour of one of the houses of being a panorama, which is awesome. And Think Bright Homes, we supported them. They got, I know they don't need much support, but they got approved to retrofit 10 homes or develop deep retrofit plans for 10 homes at once to show you can increase capacity by doing a lot at once and increase efficiencies in deep retrofits. Outside of, it's a model taken from the UK, where you can do 10 row houses at one go and it's cheaper. And they're like, but rurally, can we do 10 freestanding houses? So that project, and they're really successful and it's getting replicated in Ontario. So that's another one. Next, physician recruitment's a big one, for sure a long game. So this year we went with a digital plan. And as you can see at the bottom, we do have female doctors, but these are the 2 ads that responded. We'll also put those pictures in. So those were the top performing ads. How it worked was we hired a company and they ran targeted ads. I wanted to do it in the States because BC is running a big campaign grabbing healthcare professionals from the States. But I was told that US advertising on Meta is incredibly expensive. So we did Canada and we had a really good response. So people would see the ad, they'd click on it, and they're all lifestyle oriented like this. And then it said where we got their name, email, and then asked where they are in their physician journey. Are they a resident, a student? Are they practicing already? Are they looking for an immigration path and they're a physician? So then once a month, they send me all those emails. I send an email from my email saying, thanks for signing up. You're gonna get a monthly email with a cool story and our physician opportunities. And it works great. I've gotten a few responses back saying, hey, I'm looking for this or that. We've got a few nurses, and then I put them in touch with Interior Health because that's what they do. And we also welcomed Dr. Ofieli, which was amazing. Huge response. She was a bit overwhelmed by that. And I think we're welcoming a doctor next fall. Yeah, and we support. So if they're in town, they're locums. We'll meet them up, answer questions, see what they need, etc. Make sure we put out the red carpet. Next, there's a few of our partners. We do a lot of work in partnership because that's what I prefer, and that's how it looks better. And this obviously doesn't include local governments now, so forgot to travel to that one. But that's a few of them that we work through throughout the communities. And next slide, I think that's the last one. That's the last one. Yeah. Any questions? Let's see you. No, that was a statement.
Just one question in regards to the physician recruitment. You mentioned how expensive it was to advertise in the States, and it's something that I've been thinking about even for Canal Flats in general. Because a physician benefits more than just Canal Flats or Invermere, it goes up and down the valley. Has there been any talk about maybe trying to create a kitty that each municipality could invest into and help share the cost of what it would take to advertise in the US?
That's what this is.
Okay.
So each community does pay into the fund. I think it's through the Economic Development Regional District.
We rolled through that.
Yeah. And with regards to the expenses, I think we will see how it goes in Canada. And because it was just, that's what the advertising company told me. And I think with the response we're getting is really good. And then I've also been in touch with divisions. They oversee the overall recruitment of how we can more, because they're also getting them. So I reached out and said, how can we support? Like when you get someone who's interested from abroad, let me know how we can support. So right now we're letting them kind of handle the advertising, and they know we're here. If they want to come for a visit, we'll meet them and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Anything else?
Just on the energy project that Teresa was talking about, so Doug Smith has, we have a group of people together, and Mark actually sits on this committee through the regional district, and they're looking at the feasibility study for 4 different kind of avenues for energy production in the Columbia Valley. And so one is biomass, one is water, one is solar, and one is, I can't remember.
Is it pipe water? Like,
yeah, so the hydro one was gonna hook up to either the Edgewater or the Radium water system. The biomass, they're looking at 2 different sites, one at Canfor, one at possibly Skookumchuck, Domtar. And then the solar, they were looking at working with Sun Valley and Kimberley. So, but this is something that would affect all of us because it would be a project for the entire bringing energy into the system so that it doesn't cost so much, because it does, it costs a ton of money to heat your home. So. Yeah, I mean. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So when I was interim CAO, the mayor and I did meet with Doug
Oh, good.
to discuss projects.
Yeah, good, excellent.
Councilor Woodson?
So another thing just been on my mind just recently, has there been any thought about what we can do about our, our cryptocurrency mine that we have here? Because it produces an enormous amount of heat that I'm sure is adding even to the heat of our town. Is there, I've heard there's ways that we can recycle that heat and utilize it for other things. I know we had a gentleman in here earlier in the spring that was looking at, for example, creating, types of greenhouse style things and utilizing that heat and recycling it in a way. Is that something that we could, that Doug would be interested in? I don't even know if it's a possibility. I've heard that there are ways to recycle heat.
We can let them know about it. That's exactly what I was thinking was the greenhouse project, because I think it was close proximity
Yeah,
to
that's right.
where it was, yeah, I know way back in the day, which is not, someone had proposed that if there was a pool put in somewhere, that you could take the heat to heat, like run pipes underground, very similar to geothermal, right?
Yeah.
Just from a building. Yeah. Mhm.
We had 19 inquiries, investment opportunities in Canal Flats. What kind of inquiries, like what inquiring?
Sorry, those were clicks to Canal Flats agendas.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't label it properly.
Yeah, so they're not, didn't have somebody come down and take a look or
No.
get any more details than that.
No, that's just clicks through the monthly newsletter, whether it's RFPs or.
Anything further?
So,
All right. Thank you, Teresa, for your presentation.
Pleasure. All right, let's see.
Thank you.
Let's do the budget.
Yeah, that's nice.
You don't have to stay for the budget part.
I'll read it later.
There you go. The next item is the 2030 financial and capital plan discussion, and I will turn it over to CAO White.
Good afternoon, everyone. I guess today will be my last remote meeting. So the boxes are packing tomorrow onto the truck, so we'll see you guys in a week. Yeah, so we wanted to bring forward a little bit more about the budget. We're hoping that we can keep moving forward pretty steadily on the process to get this budget passed in a timely fashion. It's very challenging for our CFO because, of course, it's year end and budget, and then audit's going to start right away. So we're working collaboratively, sort of as the senior team, to try and get to something that makes sense. Can I share my screen? Yeah, okay. Let's make sure I'm sharing the right thing. All right. Whoa. Okay, so I'll just sort of give a quick description of the report that I did so that the public can hear it. But ultimately, we're looking at a budget that remains quite similar to last year's in regards to our operations. Where we're seeing most of our increased costs are related to things that are well outside of our control. So insurance has gone up significantly over the last couple of years, and we anticipate it continuing to rise. Bank fees have gone up quite a lot. We're seeing construction materials such as the materials for paving roads and those things going up. And although we can do a lot of bulk purchases, what the industry is showing us is that there's basically been like a 25 to 30% increase in a lot of these materials since 2001, 2002. So we're still seeing the length of that. So we're really looking at keeping that budget very similar for two reasons. We did have a surplus this year, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that we didn't have a full-time CAO. You had a CAO/CO who was working very hard but not taking up the entire budget. As well, our public works department was short staff member for the majority of the year, so that resulted in some reduction in their ability to get all of the work done. So that's one of the reasons why we're likely going to see a surplus once the audit is done. So we're really focusing right now, as we talked about at the last committee of the whole, the importance of getting some reserve investments into the budget and building those reserve investments right into the budget so that we can plan for them rather than relying on surplus at the end of the year, because sometimes, there isn't a surplus if we have an emergency that we have to deal with. So really focusing on getting those right into the budget. And our recommendation at this point is that we stagger how those surpluses start. So starting with fire, water, and sewer as our three new reserves that need to be addressed first. One, because we need a new fire truck, and we have very little borrowing capacity left. So if we use all of that borrowing capacity on a down payment for a fire truck, then we have nothing left should an emergency arise. Plus water and sewer, we see that within the water report that we talked about last committee of the whole, $15.5 million worth of water infrastructure that needs to be dealt with in the next 10 years or so. So water and sewer has at this point almost nothing in reserve. And we know that there are there's a lift station that needs to be getting done in the next couple of years as well. So what I've recommended to council is that we start in 2026 and 2027 with those those three reserves as our starting place, and then in 28 starting to build up our equipment reserve again, because we see a lot of that coming due as well, although we are trying to risk manage as much of that as possible. And then in 29 starting to add a small amount to our parks reserve. What I'm recommending to council is something in the range of a 6.6% tax increase in order to build into those reserves. And then you can see going forward, the tax increases sit somewhere around the cost of inflation in that 5 to 6% range. But to put that into real dollars, it's about $22 for every $100,000 of assessed value. I'm also recommending that starting in 2027, instead of the relatively small, less than 3% increases to our water and sewer fees, that we go up 7% for the next 4 years and then reevaluate where we are in regards to that. Ultimately, we want water and sewer to be self-sustaining. We don't want to necessarily be withdrawing from our general revenue surpluses to cover the cost of water and sewer, because that means that we don't have money to put into reserve for the future. And I just I did put in a comparison for the cost of water sewer for the village of Canal Flats versus other communities in the valley. And you'll see that we're significantly lower, even with increases over the next 5 years, we're still going to be quite low compared to some of the other communities, because ultimately they're all going to also increase with the cost of inflation as well. We did see a bit of we are going to have that surplus this year because we put in 2024 surplus into the budget. And we have definitely can see that we've got money for the $110,000 to equipment reserve. There's $12,500 to the parks reserve, $45,500 to the fire reserve, and then $21,445 to the sewer reserve. I'm recommending that with that surplus, we try and top off water and sewer, as well as the fire reserve, so that we can actually get pretty close to paying the initial payments for the fire truck that we're going to need to order this year in order to have it in place for 2026. So I open to questions. You have what we have sent you in regards to both the operating for general operating sewer and water in the arena, as well as reserves in the 10-year capital plan.
Any questions?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna see who else is up there first.
I'm talking just about the reserves right now.
You're going first, Paul?
I can't, once I find the pages I wanted. But I certainly don't have any problems with building up reserves. But I do have a bit of a problem with things that aren't done that we want done. And I would start with the Public Works Office, buildings, yard maintenance. It's been on the agenda since probably incorporation. And to do the work, have a place to protect our equipment and stuff. It would be interesting to get something started along the lines of what we're doing with the community hall, establishing what our needs are, setting up a program and having some funds set aside to do a working plan so that when we, and as it progresses, is apply some money to that project every year. So I look at stuff like the capital projects asset management reserve. And if I'm reading this right, there's some $320,000 worth of dollars in that fund. And wondered if we wouldn't take some 90,000 or 100,000, and I'm basically an idea on what it's going to cost to get the hall done, but take some money out of that and start having a definite plan on building a public works office and workshop and yard. And it's nice to have this money in the reserves, but you also have to build some assets. And this would be one asset that would be an important one for our village. So
Madam,
comment on that?
If I can piggyback onto Councillor Marcel's comment on what he's talking about. I do notice that there are no contributions whatsoever into the general capital fund planned, at least from the general operating. I don't know if it's coming in from another one. And another thing that I'd like to see prior to approval of the budget is going to be, I want to be able to see and balance all of the transfers that are happening. So if I'm seeing that there's 302,000 going into the fire reserve, I should expect to see that in the fire reserves, you know, when we're looking at the appendix or the schedule of all the different capital funds, and those amounts aren't balancing right now. So I need to be able to see exactly what the plan transfers are and that they are balancing to zero. And the other piece is that we went through a big committee of the whole meeting a month ago, and I don't see how those asks have been accounted for in this. So where is each department's request in terms of this? And if it's baked, like is it all baked into general government? Is it baked into transportation? Like, we don't see the detail of how that stuff is happening or where it's going to and from.
so certainly the public works yard or facilities is on our radar. My understanding is that there was previously some planning done that we need to sit down and review before we come back to council with a request for a dollar amount to do that project. So that's why that's not currently in the capital plan. That would be an additional ask in the near future, once we've kind of sat down, looked at it, and decided if it still meets the needs or if we are looking at something different. The other thing is, so you're not seeing all of the individual details of those asks. They are within each of the department's operational budgets that they ask for. So every ask that was included is now in the operating budget, or if it was a capital ask, it's in the capital budget.
And I guess that's what I'm saying. Is like I'm not. So under general government's great as like a header, because that's just one fund. But you know, within general government are salaries and wages. There is going to be office expenditures. There will be licenses, dues, and fees. So I'm not saying that you have to get right down to the GL level, but at the same time, it would be good to see at a high level how those things are rolling up into the total general government line item.
So each of those is the GL, right? What you just said, each of those is a GL level expense. So wages are a GL level expense. We don't break them out any further than that. Same thing with office supplies. So what we're trying to do is produce a document that we can also share with the public that is a little bit more than they might have seen in the past in regards to the budget discussions, but not so much as to be, ultimately the cost of paper is the cost of paper. And we don't necessarily want to be in a position where we're haggling over the cost of paper with residents, right? Because Sylvia and I looked at this a couple of weeks ago. What the cost of paper went up 300%, some ridiculous amount, more than doubled in the last 2 years.
Okay, but at the same time, I am not asking for a GL level summary. However, wages and salaries are a big piece of what goes into a budget, and we can roll those all up into one line item, which is CPP, EI, benefits, like actual wage expense, health expense, benefits, all of those things. They all get rolled up into one line item. That's not giving it at the GL detail level. Same thing applies for things like office expenditures. There are several expenditures that roll up into office, just like when we look at a set of financial statements. And for me, I would want to see, before I'm happy to see or happy to approve a budget, I want to be able to see how those things are rolling up into their total line item. I understand the want to do things at a high level, but telling the public general government is not enough detail. They need more than that. They need to see at least a little bit more than that. And the same thing as it relates to the transfers. If we are at a surplus in one fund and we're taking it, we're moving it to another fund, I want to be able to see money in, money out, and that they're all balancing to zero.
Okay. We'll certainly be able to provide you with that more detail. Ultimately, I
want the public to be able to see that, though, not just for me. You had also mentioned that we're saving money because we had a CAO depart, but there are other administrative costs that went with that CAO departing that would have not or negated any savings. Same thing when it comes to rate of inflation. Rate of inflation should be Bank of Canada sets it between 1% and 3%. And we are asking our residents over the next 5 years to increase their property taxes by 27.5% and by 32% over the water and the sewer. And I know that there are, in looking at the comparables of each one of, Sparwood or Invermere or Radium, that we are well below. But when we're talking about $22 per 100,000 of home over all of the homes that are in here, it's a very large tax increase. And I understand the need to do that, but I think there's a more gradual way that we can make this happen without, burdening like that. Like, that's a lot of extra dollars for each resident here over the course of the next 5 years. And I don't know if I'm comfortable with, moving up 20-30% in both of those categories over the course of the next 5 years. That's
certainly.
just.
And ultimately, that's council's decision. What I'm presenting to you is to get to a budget that is meeting the cost of actually providing the services. So when we're talking about operational and capital requests and capital costs, what we're showing you right now is a budget that gets close to the cost of providing services. There is no other guaranteed source of providing services than property taxation or user fees. We know that grants and things are available, but however, they're very competitive right now, and they are not going to meet the fiscal requirements of the municipality in the next 10 years. It's unlikely that we're going to get 15.5 million times however much percentage increase over the next 10 years for the water and sewer, well, just the water work. So when we're talking about tax increases, if council wishes to reduce the amount that we're putting into reserves, that's certainly a direction to go. But it does mean that critical infrastructure is not getting the work that it needs to maintain or to extend its life, which will result or the high capacity, high potential to result in failure. So every time we, we patch a road instead of redoing the pavement, we're not extending the life of the road very much, but we are costing the community more. So council, these are the numbers that we're providing to you to say, this is what you could do in order to reach a budget that allows for operations without, at this point, very little increase into the operational budget. I think the biggest increase to the operational budget was the 50,000 that Public Works asked for road maintenance. But ultimately, the biggest cost here to the ratepayer is putting money in the bank for reserves. We can certainly change the amount of those reserves. Start with a lower amount. It just means that it's going to take longer to get to the place where we need to be.
So if we're using roads as an example and paving roads, that would be in the road reserve, I presume?
No, that's maintenance, road maintenance. So pothole filling is road maintenance. So it would come out of the operational budget. Paving roads, like actually paving for the first time or pulling up, regrading, recompacting and paving would be a capital project.
So we, and in this, like there are no contributions to the general capital fund.
So there are contributions to the general capital fund in that $45.2 thousand that comes as a part of the taxation for road frontage.
So why don't we see that in like I see that there's asset management taxes, like there's revenue.
That is the same, that's the same fund. For some reason, it has two different names.
Okay, so there's money coming in. I do not see so that's coming, so you have asset management reserve is general capital?
It's the same fund. For some reason, it has two different names within the organization.
If I may, they're collected differently. That's why.
So
First thing on page.
and I guess that's like, and that's precisely it. So what I'm getting at is, we're looking at increasing taxes by 27.5% on our over the next 5 years for our regular property, and then 32 for our water, and it's giving us 45 grand a year. So the scale, like we do need to build it up. I agree that there is a need to do that, but the scale at which we are doing it, it might be a little onerous, in my opinion, on sort of the general taxpayer that is in here. We're talking about $45,000, which would get barely half a click. I don't even think it would get us half a click paved.
It is pretty challenging because of our tax base being small and primarily residential. It is very challenging. Like a 1% tax increase is about $7,800 total, right? So it is, when we talk about a 6% tax increase, it sounds like it should be a lot more, because you hear other levels of, or other municipalities talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars for a 6.5% tax increase, whereas we're talking about a very minimal amount of money, in that $40,000 range. It does present the challenges. My recommendation to council is that we focus on the fire, water, and sewer reserve for the first while. That be our primary places to start looking for contributions. If council wants to reduce those contributions in the first little bit and build up a bit more as we go and spread out the contributions going forward to other reserves, I think that's a very reasonable thing. This is just an opportunity for you to look at, if you want it to be 5 years from contributions to everything to get us to a good place, this is kind of where we're at. But I don't think it's unreasonable to say, okay, we're going to, instead of doing $50,000 contributions to water and sewer, we're going to do $25,000 contributions. It just means it's going to take longer. But yeah, it does have less of an impact on residents. And same with the increases to water sewer, you could look at a 5% increase over a longer period of time, although I anticipate there will continue to be increases going forward, just to keep up with inflation, because that's a place where we see a lot of increases for the cost of chemicals, and other treatment materials.
And just a minor calc note is on the sewer between 2026 and 2027, it's actually around 9%.
Oh, sorry, did I do bad math?
Just on the sewer, that was the only one.
Okay,
from 20.
okay, thank you.
On the general operating, we had a plus $136,000 increase on transportation services between 2025 and 2026. And then we had similarly a very large decrease by a little over $100,000 in the development services. Can you explain what those are or why those have changed so much?
Sorry, in transportation services, cost-wise? Yeah, those are projects that were budgeted versus not budgeted. So in the transportation services, again, we're asking for that additional $50,000. And let me open that up for you. So you can see, and again, some of these are the numbers that were predetermined previously, which we haven't really touched a lot on. Wages, which in transportation services, the primary part of wages comes up in that common services area. So you can see there's increases in wages in that section. Equipment that's getting purchased.
Can you zoom in a bit, please? That's quite, it's just really small on your screen.
Okay, let me just try and zoom in a bit. Is that helpful?
That's a little better, yeah.
Oh, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm learning to use these really fun. So if we look at, oh, sorry, I'm in the right spot now. So if we look at the public workshop, for instance, we have the benefits going, or the wages going up. We're seeing changes to, oh, no, it wasn't this one. Oh, I know what one of the other ones is. Sorry, we have some, we have a
Roads and streets.
We have a truck or the plow truck that we're going to be starting the payments on. So, now that truck, sorry, I can't remember where that truck payment schedule comes in. The snowplow. So we have some payments that are going to be starting. Oh, no, it's not even there. I don't know where it is. I apologize. There is a loan payment that's starting this year for the plow truck. Sylvia, is that the correct? Am I losing my mind?
Okay.
Yeah. So the $50,000 for additional paving and the plow truck are the biggest parts of that.
Like we haven't seen all this work on expenses. Never saw them.
Yeah, because I rolled them up for you because that was how I presented them this time. So if that's not how you want them, I can certainly send them to you in this fashion as well. So
that's like we're talking about that plow truck. Like we've got 2 trucks out there, and we're paying for both of them. Not the payments on the old one, but there are costs to having the truck around. So like that's not reflected anywhere as a like a return, and the expenses that we really don't need. But it's be nice to go through and look at what other things we're looking at that we may feel that are different or could be different. Like this is just.
That's, and I would like to caution council about going line by line through the budget, right? The level of service that you currently offer as a community government, so that council is approved, is covered by this budget. If council would like to reduce the level of service through a reduction in the budget, that is council's mandate, but reductions in the budget result in reductions in level of service. So yes, it's not ideal to have 2 plow trucks, but if our primary plow truck goes down, if people want the roads plowed, you have to have a secondary way to do that. We're not paying for that plow truck. We don't have any payments that we're making on it. So it's a relatively low cost versus bringing in a contractor to do the work, right? So that's where we are looking at the operational team, looking at the plus and minuses of each of those scenarios. So again, it's council's decision if you want to reduce services through a reduction in the budget. But if you want services to be maintained, this operational budget covers those services.
I guess I'd like to look at it to see if that's fact. Or in my mind, it's a fact.
How hard would it be, Cynthia, to repopulate this budget instead of utilizing, like, have you done it so that you can just change the percentages basically, and then everything will automatically readjust for that?
Mostly.
Okay. So how you kind of have it on your screen right now, that high level is like, we don't have to go to that next level. You could roll it up even one more and just keep it at Public Works Equipment. That's fine by me.
Okay.
And then I wouldn't mind seeing this budget like that, just how I described, and then seeing what it would be at just say a 3.5%, because I concur with what you're saying. You cut taxes, you're going to have a reduction in services. But for me, it's kind of like, where does that reduction in service, where does that land? Where's that going to be affected and hit the hardest?
Okay. Yeah.
If we're going from 45,200 into our asset management reserve, is it going to go from 45.2 to 30? Is that stomachable for the rest of council? I'm not sure.
So what I've done, Councillor, is I actually just did the percentage in regards to the increase in property tax versus, so if we have an increase in property tax of only 3.5%, then we are going to have $22,000, well, almost $23,000 to take out of the budget. So again, it's not a huge amount because our our tax base is so low. Again, because we've been shorthanded, particularly in Public Works, which is a huge part of our budget, I would suggest if you want to take money out, that we look at reducing our reserve contribution for 2026, 2027. Because as you can see here, if we go to 3.5% this year, we already are seeing it grow quite a bit by 2030. So if we want to do, 3.5% year over year, we are getting pretty big by 2030 as to what we'll have to cut from reserve.
Maybe what you would do is you take that 23,000 and, split it off, prorate it kind of evenly over across all the different, contributions to the reserve. So it's not super impactful just to one particular reserve.
Yeah.
And maybe that would help lessen the blow or the burden that is on it.
Absolutely. And I think it's reasonable to push out things like the Parks Reserve, although I hate saying that because I am I do have a strong recreation background. It's okay to think about pushing that Parks Reserve out a couple of years. The place where that's going to become an issue is that if the spray park goes ahead, we're talking about spray parks have about a 20-year useful life, anticipated life. So we'll have to start looking at developing a reserve for replacement of that pretty quickly in order to get ready for that 20-year changeover. So again, if we're talking about, we already have annual contributions to the asset management or the general capital. We already have contributions to the road through the frontage tax. Those two reserves are already getting a contribution. Focusing on the fire and the water and sewer, because we have 2 fire trucks that are due in this 10-year capital plan. Again, I would suggest remaining there and then perhaps pushing those other reserves out a couple of years to offset some of these costs if you want to go, 4 or lower in your tax increases.
And I should note, like, when it comes to the water and the sewer, like those frontages, like, I do think we need to do those as stated and as written. It is 32% over the course of the next 5 years is a lot, but we are underpriced severely compared to everybody else. I do agree with that part. But the property taxes themselves, I think that those are a little aggressive for how, how the town how that might impact us. So I would feel better staying on the high end of what, Bank of Canada, suggests as their inflation period, and maybe have that around 3.5 would be, I wouldn't mind seeing the modeling under that and seeing it under both scenarios and really seeing how that changes things. I've opened it up to other people to what they think as well.
And so, Councillor, would you like to sort of see that as over the whole 5-year capital plan, trying to stay at 3.5?
Yeah, seeing what 3.5 looks like over the 5 years, basically just having a mirror of one and the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally send you both those documents. I think the big thing to think about is, though, and I just wanted to throw this out there because I think it will become a part of our discussions, is that at the end of 2027, the RDEK collective bargaining agreement expires, and it's been historically that the village adopts the cost of living changes that the RDK negotiates. And I will say that in the last big sets of bargaining within municipalities, they were seeing, especially in the first couple of years, between 6 and 8% requests for increases and getting them. I know that there was one regional district that got 8 for 4 years. So I have built in a bit of a wage buffer for those 3 years because we could be in a place where there's a significant increase in that cost of living. I don't anticipate, based on what we have seen, that we're going to see things in the 2-3% again with those bargaining units.
Okay.
So just that's out there as well as a little bit of an increase. But I can do 3.5 across the board. And then council can decide if they would like to address the reserves in a different way, because I think that's not unreasonable. And again, this is a 5-year plan to kind of not do it all at once, but not wait too long, because the longer we wait, really the less money we're getting into, because we're not making the interest rates, right? So.
Just a question, and I don't know what the header is on page 11. It lists out all the plans and how you're going to finance them to the different rates. And I just looked at a couple of things that are in there and wondered if they were, I guess they're done with other funds, but for an example, at the bottom of the page, we've got an F550 replacement with crane and service body. So we have a $200,000 truck coming up in 2027.
Yeah.
Is that the one? I don't even know what truck that is. If you have one that's comparable, is this just
a big one? It's a pretty big pickup truck. And again, so we have a lot of equipment coming up, and I've been working with Urban. There's 4 different companies that have Urban in them. Urban Systems, Sylvie? What's that?
Yes, Urban Systems, yeah.
Thank you. There's seriously 4 different companies that have the word urban in them. And so working with them on updating our asset management. So identifying where we anticipate end of life and replacement dates. And then the team and I are going to be working at doing some risk management around some of this equipment. So for instance, Chuck and I have been talking about, instead of ordering a new water truck, we've looked at some used ones, as well as we've looked at an option of getting a water tank trailer, which is going to be probably half, maybe $50,000 to $75,000 versus $150,000 for a used truck. So we're looking at those options to try and figure out how to reduce some of those costs, and better use our reserve funds as they sit now.
And the water truck is another one, and even like that truck probably works 3 weeks out of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why we think the trailer is probably actually a better idea, because it's more versatile.
And certainly not as expensive to maintain as replaced. The replacement with crane and service truck. Whether you need things like the headwaters extension, that's money coming out of the gas tax. Rather than use that funding for the headwaters extension, then I'd go back to maybe putting that money into different locations. I'd be starting a project on the public works building would give the village a better return than another walkway.
Yeah.
Those concepts that we talked about in the plan.
Yeah, and the Headwaters Walkway extension, again, that was part of a plan that was developed, which is why staff are enacting on that. And so funding has been obtained. So that almost $52,000 is our contribution to a larger funding agreement with Columbia Basin. Yeah. So when councils adopt a strategic plan of some sort, so if there's a pathways plan or trails and parks plan or whatever the case may be, we take those plans and we try and enact them as funding comes up. So we did just receive that funding, but if that's something council doesn't want us to do and wants us to return the funding on, that's certainly something we can look at, and that almost $52,000 can be repurposed. It is tough times.
Yeah, it depends on whether you could return that money. I wouldn't agree to returning any money, but it's just I wasn't too sure. It's just our own funding or the gas tax fund. Where we got that?
If I may.
Yeah.
If I may add to that. So we were successful in obtaining this grant. We found out this week that we got the grant to do this this project. So council, when I sought to apply, I suggested half our portion be funded by gas tax and half through the climate action. That could change and we could fund it all through climate action. There would be enough funds in that account, but then that means it would be not available for the hall or other projects.
Yeah.
So I just thought when I was proposing this that we could share the wealth and sort of make it be a little bit from each fund, but that could be changed.
And ultimately, like, gas tax is pretty flexible about what we can use it for. But at the same time, some funds aren't as flexible. So, if the climate action fund is better used to do upgrades to the hall, and matches better with something like a green municipal fund from the feds, those are things we have to look at strategically. I've put in where they can come from. It may not be the final resting place of our contribution, depending on what other pressures we have, right? Right now, there's money in the gas tax.
And if I can add as well, I'm continuously looking for other grant opportunities to apply for our portion. There's still the BC Active Transportation Fund that's been on hold, and they keep saying it was supposed to be announced in the fall, and so it still hasn't been announced. But when that's if we already have half of it funded through a grant, it's very good chance we would get the other half from another funder. So I'm continuously looking, and if we could get a grant for the other portion, that's what I would do as well. So that's not, yeah. I'm still looking.
For our 10-year plan, CEO White, how, obviously 4.17 million is probably not going to be feasible unless we get some serious, funding granted to us. Are we able to, like, what's on the docket out of that whole big list? Is that all technically funded in this?
Really everything but the water system upgrades is pretty much funded. We can manage everything. Again, some of that is the RDEK funding. Some of it we already have grants for. Some of it we've identified we'd like to do it, but it's grant dependent. So we may not move forward with it this year. They're not essential pieces, like the flagpoles, for instance. Although the CO would really like those flagpoles, if we don't get the grant, we're not necessarily going to recommend to council that you prioritize those flagpoles. Same with, ideally picnic tables. We'd have lots of picnic tables because we want people to be wandering in the community. But, we have $70,000 for the trailer for the fire department. That's grant funded. Everything is at this point in time that needs to happen, that really, really needs to happen, is funded, except for we have not heard about the water system upgrades.
Okay. And I'd be very curious to see, if we did go to that 3.5% based on whatever the beginning balance of some of those reserves are, if we are still okay to fund all of this in 2026.
Yeah, that'll be the big question. I think 2026 we're okay. I think it's probably 2027's projects that are going to start to see that impact. We will exhaust some of our funds in 2026 with a 0% contribution. We would exhaust some funds. With a smaller contribution, we're going to be very close to exhausting some of those funds that probably will impact 27 going forward. But I can put that together as well. And then, we have things coming up that were unexpected. So we haven't really even talked about the issues that we're seeing with the road to the beach. We think there'll be needing to be some solution to some drainage issues there that are causing the bank to erode. We're not sure yet what that best solution is or what those costs are going to be.
Astronomical at best.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing I probably should have brought it up in January, but long time ago I watched a CBC just news clip, and it was pretty neat what this community in Newfoundland was doing. And basically what it was a bottle and glass crushing machine that you would take your bottles and your glass to and crush it, and it would actually turn it into sand. And, it would be, obviously there's paper and stuff and all still on there, but you fill it up with water, all that stuff comes to the surface, and then you can take out the clean sand out of the bottom. And I just think about our beach, and I think about how much the RDEK hates our landfill and how much of a burden it is for them. And, I don't know how much one of those machines cost, but I know it's not in our budget, but it's just thinking about the beach and just getting more nice sandy areas for people to walk on and sit down there. Might be an idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing when we talk about playgrounds, right? Like, you can use sand as a playground safety surface, but it has to be a certain grain so that it doesn't clump and that it actually provides some cushion versus a hard fall. People spend tens of thousands of dollars on rubber surfaces because it's actually challenging to get that sand and keep that sand, and the sand gets dirty and stuff like that. But it's a lot more cost effective if you can use sand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we want to have an economic development corporation that helps us develop some of these things that we can sell sand to other communities.
Yeah. One thing on the arena operating, just wondering why, like, all of our different arena revenues, like, why didn't we forecast any growth out of that?
So I spoke to the arena manager, and we did a couple where we put a little bit of growth in, mostly on arena ice rentals, and a little bit on advertising revenues, very small amounts on other revenues, because of the problem with, although I will say again, congratulations to the Village of Canal Flats. I have never seen an arena that comes anywhere close to breaking even. And ultimately this arena does essentially get as close to breaking even as one is ever going to see in an arena, which is pretty impressive. Because revenues for things like rentals are so challenging, if you over budget your revenue and you have an off year, it really is going to negatively impact everything. So we're going to have to take things out of reserves if we over budget. I think it's better for us to have a happy surplus at the end than necessarily to over budget some of those revenues. I think in probably 28 or 29, council will want to review user fees for that facility in particular to make sure that we are keeping up an appropriate level of user fees. You know, if we look at the user fees in Calgary for youth tournaments and things, it's $250 an hour in most of their arenas. And if that's the market we're hitting and we're charging $100 an hour less, what is our balance point for that? Could we go a little higher?
Yeah.
We most likely could, because they don't have the ice time to do it in Calgary, is the reason why we capture so much.
Yeah, we're a little bit holding them hostage. Hopefully nobody from Calgary is watching that, but that is the case. We don't want to make it challenging to attract them, but I do think there's some wiggle room for us to think about in 28 or 29, once we get a better sense of where we're at with operations there.
If I can add to, we as a staff and council don't have to worry about it because our arena manager is reviewing that every fall. And so we just did increase our rates 2 years ago for that. So that may come again in the fall anyway, that usually it's arena rates that we wait for in the fall.
Yeah, it's a fine balancing act. It's kind of like a golf course. If you sell your golf gates for $75 a round, you get 90% participation. If you sell them for 125, you might make more money, you drop participation. It's just like you got to find the balance where you keep as high as you can as participation with max returns.
Price elasticity.
Yeah, it just flips up and down whether it's the right price. So
Yeah.
If I can also add, we were lucky, the Village of Canal Flats was lucky a number of years ago when the Memorial Arena was down. Cranbrook Minor Hockey used our arena for minor hockey practice, games, all those things. And our revenue was very, very high, but that was a one-off. And so it is so dependent on user groups, circumstances surrounding us, not necessarily something that Canal Flats can control.
and that,
Yeah.
that's a
Public use of
I
it.
say it's a real loss because it wasn't just weekends, which is typically
Yeah.
revenue.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anything further about the budget?
So yeah, I guess it's fair to say that the arena generated a surplus this year of 50 grand, and we're able to put that into their capital reserve.
Yeah, so that's going into the reserve. We have some questions about how that capital reserve gets used, so we're going to be reaching out to the RDEK in the next couple of weeks to figure that out as well, because they fund our capital projects, but we're building a capital reserve. So we just need to make sure that we're reporting that, because it doesn't seem to be clear with our financial department how that gets reported. Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, I would never even imagine this was a thing with an arena. Arenas and pools, those are incredibly expensive and very poor money makers.
I think if it had been left just to Canal Flats to pay the expenses on the arena, I don't think we don't have any regional funding.
Mhm.
So would this then go back to one more committee of the whole and just for final approval? And then do we pass it at a regular council meeting once we have consensus at committee of the whole?
I think Mr. Councillor Weitzel is looking at me, but I'll answer if that's okay. I think CAO White would like to have the public information meeting first before
Okay.
adoption. Is that what you had said?
Yeah, so typically what we should be doing and looking at is I think because you've asked for that difference between what I've recommended and the 3.5, we'll do another committee meeting, hopefully before the end of the month. And then what we should have is at the next council meeting after that is a first and second reading. And then council we should have an open house of some sort. We're actually required under the charter to have some sort of public consultation on our budget. I mean, doing it as a open meeting is the like barest minimum of that consultation requirement. But I think it's value for council to be able to help educate the public when we're talking about any kind of fees and tax increases and the value of those over the long term. So I would like us to host an open house of some sort. And then once you've heard that feedback from the community, if you feel like there's some changes that still need to be made, you can do that prior to third reading and then adoption.
Would you recommend then doing an open house outside of committee of the whole? Because committee of the whole kind of is the open house, isn't it?
Well, you would think, but not everybody feels like they have the opportunity to have discussions during a committee of the whole, right? Some people might prefer to have an informal kind of like 20-minute discussion. I mean, I've sat through those ones where, you have a 20-minute discussion about the price of water and sewer. And so I think having that extra open house helps people to understand the hard decisions that council's making.
Okay.
And because committee of the whole is during the day, not everyone has the opportunity to attend in person, right? Depending on their employment or their childcare needs.
In the public meeting, they advertise, and I'm not sure what, normally in the evenings, I think they just take 1 day a week or 2 days a week and present the budget to the public and field questions and whatever else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really looking at, and what I'm seeing with other municipalities as well is this really, really purposeful push to bring people into the room, right? To give them no reason to not have an opportunity to be in the room. I feel like I triple negatived at that one, but no barrier to people being in the room to have these discussions with council. So once that, I think that's, by the end of March, we're able to be in a very good place for council to make a final decision on budget, the last meeting in March or the first meeting in April. And that still gives us another month and a half before we're required to submit to the ministry.
Okay. So next committee of the whole meeting would be when?
First,
March 9th.
March the 9th?
Are we good with going over it then?
Can,
Or do you want to go over it?
I'd like a copy of the expenses, the way you presented them on like that, breaking them down, sort of line item.
Okay.
More for my own information, if the rest of council doesn't want it. I think it's just a print on, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll get you a PDF of that for you. Yeah.
Yeah, can you get it printed so I can get big?
Big. Yeah. And I do want to ask, was there anything in this that in the first 5 years of that 10-year capital plan, that council really, really doesn't want to see us do.
Well, it's a little hard to say because it's just up at one line item, so I can't quite tell what that's made up of. And that's but I think once we go down just one level for what you've got even there, that's gonna help us, you know, better inform if there is anything I would or would not like to see.
Could you send me a read-only copy of that itself? Sheet?
Sorry, I didn't not hear that.
Could you share us a read-only copy of that Excel sheet?
Yeah, I will rely on Sylvie to do the IT part of that.
Excel, yes.
So yeah, we'll get that to you.
Well, print and scan.
Oh,
And so what I'll do is I will get the 3.5% to you this week as well as the more detailed. So if you know, if we can anticipate you'll have it by Friday, remembering that I'm packing up my truck tomorrow. But I should be able to get that to you hopefully by Friday, Monday at the latest. How's that? No, Tuesday, because Monday's a stat.
No worries, that works for me. And then, so I'm good with committee of the whole on March the 9th again. That's all right, everybody else?
So if I may ask that we all, if we have any concerns, want anything pulled out or anything like that, that we send those via email to the whole group.
Yeah.
And then we'll of course talk about it all in the next meeting, but just give staff some time to work on it and to not be kind of blindsided on anything.
Just, I will not be here. I will be on vacation, but enjoy.
Is that allowed?
That is allowed.
It's on the books.
You booked that before I got here, otherwise no. No. Yeah,
Are we going to develop an action plan of jobs that have to be done or projects that we hope to see done by the end of 26?
This is.
I.e. things like some of the work, or at least the plan to do the civic center.
yeah.
Like, is that
That's in
action?
there. So in the 10-year capital plan section, community hall retrofit engineering design. Plus there's already some funding there for the doors and window, or the door or the windows, or some version thereof. So yeah, that is definitely in there.
Yeah, but that's sort of an action plan for that particular one, but some of the other things we touched on, you know, that are even talking about it here, or planting trees, you know, some work on just the action plan of things that we do, which didn't get done last year. For example, was painting the directional signs. Was one thing that didn't get
Staining.
I'm sorry,
Staining.
staining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
kind of things. Some of that work, you know, like if it's not on the book, it probably doesn't come up and get done. And so it'd be nice to see the kind of overall action plan for all the different departments.
Yeah, yes, a work plan for all the departments. We will be implementing that. It might take us a couple of months to get that to you, but it'll come to a council meeting.
Yeah, that'd be good. Like, there's no panic on it, but I think it's frustrating to see things that have been there for a period of time that maybe should have been done sooner.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say this is 2026 is a very ambitious capital plan. Even if you just think about purchases for equipment and things, that's still a lot of time by staff to do the procurement processes for those. And when we start talking about designing things, or we start talking about construction projects, it becomes a really, for an organization this size, $4 million of capital projects in 1 year is a lot. That's a huge amount. And so I think that's part of the reason why some things don't get done, because the staff identify all of these really important needs that are must-dos because they've been put off. And then it becomes overwhelming and there's no way to get it all done.
Well, if you take the $3 million out of the water system, it's not that terrible.
No, that's right. But the water system, if we get that funding, is going to be a gigantic project. So, yeah, exactly.
I don't know how far the engineering is on that. We probably won't take a hold till 27 anyway.
Yeah, we probably won't start construction till 27.
If I may add to that, so the Headwaters Walkway, for example, also the grant doesn't expire till 2027, so that might not get done this year, but it might get done next year, you know.
Yeah.
There's wiggle there in some of these projects.
Yeah. And the big ones, when we're talking about anything, really anything over, anything that's not a purchase over 400,000, like over, you know, $500,000, that's a multi-year project for us. You know, with the water system upgrades, if we do it this sort of every 3 years, with what we anticipate being the strategic priorities fund, reopening every 3 years, I think is what they've led us to believe. We'll be finishing one portion and getting to the next in that time frame, and we won't get a break.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, anything further? I'm gonna move her in secretary to adjourn the meeting. Councilor Matson, Councilor Shandry, all in favor? Okay.